From the coffee that gets you going in the morning to substances that can completely reshape how you see the world, we're surrounded by chemistry that changes us. So today, we're going to dive right in, go inside the brain, and see what's really going on.
Right? I mean, we encounter these things all the time. But have you ever really stopped to think about what's happening, like chemically, inside your own head when you do? The processes they kick off are not just fascinating, they tell us a whole lot about how we're wired. And that's exactly what we're going to break down.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with some brain chemistry basics, then jump into the big categories, the uppers, the downers, and the ones that alter reality. After that, we'll look at how dependence can happen and wrap up with some really important info.
Okay, let's get started. Section 1, Mind and Matter. Because really, to get a handle on how any of this stuff works, you've got to understand the brain's own natural messaging system first. So, picture this. Neurotransmitters are like these little text messages zipping between your brain cells. They're what control, well, pretty much everything. Now, the substances we're talking about, they're kind of like hackers. They can hijack the system. They can copy the messages, block them, or just flood the whole network. Honestly, if you get this one idea, you'll get everything else we're about to cover. All right, time for our first category, the uppers, or what we call stimulants. And yeah, the name says it all. These are the substances that basically hit the gas pedal on your brain and your nervous system. And we're going to start with the most popular stimulant on the entire planet, caffeine. But here's the thing that most people get wrong. Caffeine doesn't actually give you energy. No, it's way cleverer than that. It's basically a master of disguise. It blocks the little docking stations for a chemical called adenosine, which is your brain's way of telling you, hey, I'm tired. So let's walk through what happens with that morning cup of coffee, right? First, it blocks that tired signal so you don't feel tired anymore. Then you hit that peak. You're focused, you're motivated. But, and there's always a but, there's a price to pay. See, while the caffeine was blocking the signal, all that adenosine was just piling up. So when the caffeine wears off, bam, it all comes rushing in at once. And that, my friends, is the crash. I love this quote. It just nails that feeling at the peak of caffeine's effect. It's not like, pure joy, but it's this feeling of being totally in control, totally capable. And that's what keeps billions, literally billions, of us reaching for it every day. Okay, so we've talked about the world's most common stimulant. Now let's shift to one of the most powerful. Cocaine's mechanism is totally different. It doesn't mess with your fatigue signals. Instead, it goes straight for your brain's reward circuit. It basically stops the janitors from cleaning up dopamine, the chemical that makes you feel pleasure. So dopamine just builds up and up and up and up, creating this absolutely massive, intense wave of euphoria. And this chart, wow, it really shows you what we mean by a dopamine flood. Look at the bar for listening to music, a nice, normal pleasure. Okay, now look at cocaine. See that jump? And then look at methamphetamine. It's just off the charts. It's that incredible scale, that sheer volume of chemical reward that explains why these substances can be so, so powerful. All right, let's completely switch gears. We've done the uppers, now let's go to the complete opposite end of the spectrum, the downers. You guessed it, these are the depressants. They do exactly what they sound like, they slow everything down. And the most famous depressant, of course, is alcohol. And alcohol is, well, it's kind of a paradox, isn't it? It often makes you feel loosened up, more social, but the way it does that is by putting the brakes on the parts of your brain that handle things like good judgment and self-control. Kind of wild when you think about it. So that journey of a drink, it's probably pretty familiar, right? It starts with that nice, warm, relaxed feeling where your inhibitions just melts away a little. But as you keep going, those depressant effects really kick in. Your judgment gets fuzzy, your coordination goes out the window, and the price? We all know it, the hangover. That's literally your brain in panic mode, trying desperately to get its chemistry back to normal. This quote really gets to the heart of the long-term trade-off. Because in the moment, it can feel like it's adding something to life. But over time, it can actually wear down your brain's own ability to feel good, to find meaning in things, and that's where a really tough cycle can begin. Okay, so we've talked about speeding up and slowing down. But now we're going somewhere else entirely. This next category isn't about pace, it's about changing the very fabric of perception. Welcome to altered states. LSD is the classic example here. Its main playground is the serotonin system. You can think of serotonin as the brain's orchestra conductor for your mood and how you see the world. LSD comes in, grabs the conductor's baton, and basically scrambles the whole symphony. It can even mess with what's called the default mode network. That's the part of your brain that holds your ego, your sense of you, and that's what can lead to this incredible shift in sensory input and even your own identity.
And within this same broad category, you've also got something called dissociatives. Now, these are a bit different. They don't just scramble the signals coming in, they can actually block them altogether. This creates this really profound feeling of being disconnected, separated from what's happening around you.
And this quote about ketamine, it just sums it up perfectly. It's not about seeing things that aren't there. It's about feeling like you aren't there. It's this fundamental change where you feel like you're watching your own life from the outside, like an observer, a totally different kind of experience. So, okay, we've seen how these different substances push and pull on the brain's chemistry, but that brings up a huge question. How does using something sometimes turn into depending on it? That's what we're tackling next, how this cycle can literally start to rewire the brain.
And what's so important to understand is that this isn't random, it's a predictable path. It starts with that initial use, right? You're looking for that pleasure, that relief. But your brain is smart. It's always trying to find balance. So it starts making less of its own feel-good chemicals to compensate. That's when tolerance builds. Suddenly you need more just to get that same old feeling. And if that continues, you can hit the point of dependence, where it's not even about getting high anymore. It's about needing the substance just to feel, well, normal. Okay, we're moving into our final section. And honestly, this is the most important part of our whole conversation today. Let's talk about the disclaimer and where to find help.
I want to be absolutely clear about this. Everything we've talked about is for educational purposes. Period. This isn't about promoting anything. Our goal here is to raise awareness, to explain the science, because understanding how this stuff works is so important.
And if you, or maybe someone you care about, is struggling with any of this, please know that you are not alone and there is help out there. This number on the screen is for the SAMHSA National Helpline. It's completely free, it's confidential, and someone is there to talk 24/7. Please don't hesitate to reach out.
You know, when you boil it all down, our brains are these incredible machines built for balance. Every single substance we've looked at today plays with that balance. It tips the scales. And so the question I want to leave you with is this. What really happens when we use chemistry to tip those scales? And what's the real price of that imbalance?